I wanted to see how much I could change my body in 2 weeks. From experience, I know that I can pile on pounds of weight and feel much more unhealthy in 2 weeks if I eat ice cream, drink beer, and slouch around. But can extreme results happen in the other direction? And with such a short time span, can you feel the results happening in real time? The human body is this amazing, adaptable machine that can essentially be programmed and modified to do seemingly impossible stunts. I wanted to put my body through an experiment to see if I could see and feel the changes happening each day if I went all in and did as much as I could fit into each day without hurting myself. In this project, I wanted to answer, how fit can you get in 2 weeks? Fitness and health motivation comes in many different forms, say from your friends acknowledging your weight, topless scenes in superhero movies, getting back into the dating scene, or your doctor giving you a dire warning. But the often mentioned but rarely leveraged reason that people should get into fitness and health is that you can feel very different. I don't want my human body to adapt to lifting extreme weights for 1 hour a day, then spend the remaining time laying or sitting down. I believe, at least evolutionarily, it works best when it chases, then climbs, then jumps, then fights or forages, then rests, all to then have to run away from something else later on. I looked for this exact question, how fit can you get in 2 weeks, online, and pretty much everything pointed towards aesthetic, rather than efficiency, recovery, energy levels, or mood. So I thought that this would be an interesting project because most people can stick to something for 2 weeks without seeing results. After 2 weeks, if you don't see results, you're arguably justified in losing motivation and giving up. And with habits taking over 60 days to form, and nutritionists recommending a diet that you can maintain for numerous months, I was curious to see if anything noticeable could happen in just 2 weeks if I put all of my effort in. This is about fitness and health, not specifically weight loss or strength. If my only metric for success was the scales or the plates, then I could just eat nothing for 2 weeks, or have a carnivore diet for 2 weeks and spend all day lifting weights. But I cared more about how I felt internally. I cared about my recovery after exercise, I cared about my adaptability, and I cared about my mood. So, while of course I did measure my weight and dimensions, I also logged every day how I was feeling, and anecdotally if I felt any healthier or fitter. And, after a total of 5 runs, 12 morning walks, 4 additional longer walks, 2 rowing sessions, 4 yoga sessions, 2 tennis sessions, 5 weightlifting sessions, 5 reaction training sessions, about 4 hours combined of stretching, a long kayak down a canal, an online at-home workout video, and nightly calisthenics and meditation, I lost around 1.2 kilos, trimmed 1.5 inches off my waist, and my arms grew by 1.5 centimeters. My resting heart rate also went down, but bear in mind this is likely to be inaccurate because I only used the sensor on my phone. Most noticeably for me, my morning walks went from being grueling and miserable to being a genuine highlight of my day. Everything from my breathing to my sleeping, my walking to my running became more efficient, less of a strain, and I can't really put into words how weirdly energetic I feel at all times now. So if you want to stop watching this video there, then the summary is the project was a success. I had a lot of fun doing this. It was definitely worth it. My mental attitude with exercise and health has definitely changed in just 2 weeks. I'm definitely going to keep up some things like the morning walks, and I'm definitely going to stop doing 3 hours of exercise every day because it takes up a surprising amount of time. Before I get into the details of what I did for 2 weeks, you have to remember that this is what worked for me. Everybody is different, and you might be coming from a much more athletic or more complicated place than I did. So this video is my story, it's not medical advice. So let's first talk about the things that I did every day. Every morning I would drink my coffee on a walk ranging from 2.5 to 5.5 kilometers. This helped me clear my head for the day, get myself up and moving, and allow me to evaluate how I was feeling from the previous day's exercise. This ended up being such a useful motivation boost in the morning that I'm going to keep doing this practice even after the project finishes. Additionally, every evening I would do 50 press-ups, 50 twisting sit-ups, 50 bodyweight squats, and a 50-second hold in the pull-up position. This was a great way to get that last bit of energy out at the end of the day, but it was also a really consistent yardstick to identify which muscles were aching and which joints needed more rest than others. I'd do this just before bed, which helped me keep my energy levels on their toes and didn't seem to negatively affect my sleep. I gave up all chocolate, cakes, crisps and alcohol, which was especially hard because I like beer and wine a lot, and New Year's Eve was during this 2-week project as well. The logic here again was not to specifically lose weight, but instead to have the recovery and energy levels primed for the next day's exercise. I aimed each day to do around 1.5 hours of strenuous exercise and around 1.5 hours of light exercise, such as walking, light yoga or stretching. On Monday the 28th of December I started the project. I wanted to measure fitness by how quickly and comfortably I could do a long run, and recovery based on how I felt the next day. So day 1 contained 15 minutes of yoga, a 10km run, an additional 4 kilometers of walking, and then a stretching session when I got back home. I also had my first bubble bath in about 2 years as a measure of hydrotherapy. I woke up the next morning feeling almost hungover with dehydration, my muscles were sore, and I didn't have tons of energy until midday. On day 2, when the energy levels finally got back up, I did an hour of tennis, followed by a quasi-isometric hold workout designed to work my joints and muscles and tendons without using up too much energy. Day 3, my legs were still a bit sore, but I wanted to make the most of the good weather. So I did 2 5km runs with an 8km walk in the middle, where I got to walk with my friend's dog. Once home, I did even more stretching, both dynamic and static. Day 4 was New Year's Eve, so I celebrated by doing another hour of tennis, a half-an-hour yoga session, and a half-an-hour stretching session. The blistering UK cold was starting to get to me, but I even wrote in my health journal that breathing when laying down feels a little easier than it did even on Monday, and the idea that I could just spring into a jog at any moment seems so much easier already. Day 5 was New Year's Day, the first in probably 10 years where I woke up without a hangover and before midday, and it irritated me how good I felt about that. I did wake up feeling very dehydrated, probably from a late night and all the cranberry juice and diet tonics I'd had, and that reflected noticeably in my weigh-in. I had an absolute blast doing a pop sugar fitness workout.
7, come on, 6, go, 4 more.
And then restored my machismo by doing a weightlifting session focusing primarily on my upper body. Day 6, I set a personal best on the rowing machine, followed by stretching and foam rolling, along with a 2-hour muddy walk to go see Woking Palace. I slept like a baby that night, between the workout fatigue and the fresh air. I also noted in my journal that I've noticed that my readiness to start exercising is already heightened. It takes 5 minutes to motivate myself to go from sleepy to get into jeans and out the front door in the mornings, versus 30 minutes of redditing, faffing, water drinking, journal writing, umming and ahhing. Day 7, I woke up feeling like shit. The night before we'd had homemade fried chicken to send off my sister who was moving out, and the stark contrast in diet made me feel noticeably greasy and less efficient compared to other days. I played with my balls outside to test my reactions for an hour, then did 30 minutes of yoga followed by a workout focusing mostly on stability muscles and my core. Day 8, and 1 week in, and I had a conundrum. I felt that I could be doing a lot more fitness and that I wasn't yet approaching overtraining, but I also was starting to lose energy. I downloaded a diet tracker and logged my food intake and found that I was only getting around 2,000 calories a day. Bear in mind, before the project I would normally have around 2,500 calories a day, and at the minute I was burning an additional 500 to 1,000 calories each day. I upped my intake of carbs and protein, and over the next few days it started to feel a lot better. I did another session of ball tossing, a 5km run, a stretching session, then a core and lower back weight training session. Day 9, and the novelty had started to wear off, and while I was feeling much better internally, the excitement of low impact weight training and running was grinding to a halt. I did another session of ball tossing, a 20-minute row again, 20 minutes of intense stretching and a light leg and core session. I also added in the hilarious 25 minutes of low intensity yoga. Day 10, I started with another reflex training session after a slightly longer walk than normal, and then did another run. But this run I wanted to make more interesting, so I tried out this app called Zombies Run, which basically simulates a zombie apocalypse around you while you run, which certainly made the time go faster and was more engaging. I did 8.3 kilometers and felt pretty good both during and after this. I also finished the day off with a proper chest and tricep workout using all of the weights that I could fit onto the bar, doing 50 reps. My hands started cramping before my muscles got tired, but I got there in the end. Day 11 saw the light at the end of the tunnel. At this point, I'd convinced myself to finish the project on Friday as opposed to Sunday, predominantly for beer-related reasons, but also because I injured my hand on Friday in an avocado-related incident. After my morning walk, I did a 30-minute yoga session. This one actually kicked my butt. Another play with my balls, a final stretching session, and then a nice 8-kilometre walk. Day 12, and I got a good amount of time to digest my thoughts about this project on my morning walk, and about how even in such a short time frame of 2 weeks, the changes had felt gradual, but I noticeably felt healthier and more efficient already. I decided to go for a paddle on the canal with a friend, and we ended up out there for around 2.5 hours. The water had frozen over on the top, which was really cool to experience, and it got me thinking about how my grit and outdoorsiness had improved over the last 2 weeks.
From the waist up, I'm warm. Yeah. From the waist down, I actually don't know, because everything's numb.
I'd spent around 3 hours outdoors each day, with the temperatures ranging from -3 to +4 degrees Celsius, and I'd ran more in the last 2 weeks than I had in the previous 2 months, on top of all the other exercises. Without going all hipster or woke or preachy, I realised that I was enjoying my life, enjoying being an occupant of my own body, a lot more this Friday than 2 Fridays prior. It was a pretty awesome feeling. If you're going to do something like this, or you just want to get back into fitness and change your body up a bit, I recommend finding something that you can do regularly, ideally every day, that checks in with every muscle that you can reach. This can be a morning walk, push-ups and sit-ups, a yoga session, or even a guided body scan. The value in this comes from being aware every day of how everything feels, where you need to rest, and to check in with yourself to make sure you're not overtraining, but also that you're not holding yourself back from progress. To make something like this sustainable and enjoyable, the best diet is always one that you can stick to. I'm recording this narration the week after the project has finished, and since then, I've drunk a few beers and eaten chocolate biscuits. But I have become much more aware of how I feel after drinking and eating crappy foods. I hope that this healthier perspective on food persists, because with even half of the rate that I progressed in 2 weeks, I'm very excited to see what I'll be able to do within the next few months. After the first few runs, I got bored of the same scenery and playlists, and each time you do the exact same workout, it feels a little less exciting and engaging, especially if your progression is slower than you'd hoped. Using apps like Zombies Run and competing with my dad at rowing, reflex training and tennis, I was able to keep things fresh, and no 2 workouts were the same. I also spent a lot of time looking for different ways to work out, such as using the quasi-isometric hold workouts when my energy levels were low but my muscles needed training, or the pop sugar fitness workouts when I needed to expend some energy but not overexert my muscles. Finally, there's all sorts of advice out there, and they've all got varying levels of validity, and they're all tailored to their target markets. You have to remember that if you go looking for your desired answer rather than an honest one, you'll always find it. So it's important to incorporate a range of advice into your conclusions, and not just lean entirely on one source. I personally am a huge fan of the Pioneer and Buff dudes on YouTube, but what works for them might not be exactly what works for me.